guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. I'm your host Hassan. I have Famik and Adi with me. We'll be going over the season review for Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Burnley, and Chelsea. For those of you watching, please make sure you subscribe and like our videos. Adil, I'll come to you straight away first. The team we're going to start with is Arsenal. What did you make of their season?
I think Arsenal, you have to say had a poor season, below average season, simply because it had so much promise and so much excitement off the back of last season. And I can't help but feel like the club themselves and Arteta himself have caused a lot of the problems that they've suffered in terms of the type of mistakes they made. You don't expect from a manager who's already been there for 6 months or so. And the thing is, the way they handled the Ozil situation, it was always going to disrupt the club, because it's not like the manager and the hierarchy in Arsenal didn't know that he's an influential player, didn't know that he's quite liked by the players, that he's a senior role model to a lot of the younger players. So I just feel like even off the back of the way they handled that situation, it doesn't make sense, because like Arteta was already there, and they already know the situation. They knew it was always going to have an adverse effect on the club, on the fan base. He polarizes the fan base, but as much as fans, criticized him, there was also fanatical support for him as well. So I just feel examples like that are a lot of self-inflicted problems that Arsenal have caused themselves, the hierarchy, the manager himself. And a season that promised so much just flattered to deceive at every moment. I mean, the amount of times it felt like maybe they've turned the corner and then they'd have another poor result. I have to say it's a poor season for their standards, and even more poor because of the fact that it feels like a lot of it is actually self-inflicted. Not like major injury lists, or every club has their injuries, but they had solutions to a lot of the problems. Maybe they chose different or the wrong solution. So
Famik, what did you make of Arsenal's season?
Adil summed that up perfectly. It was just bad. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, it was a bad season. And what makes it worse is the fact that Arsenal finished 6 points outside, was it top 4?
Top 4. Yeah.
It just goes to show that this would have been a season to get back into the top 4 if we did what we were supposed to do. And we didn't. We stuck with a manager who I think is largely to blame for us finishing in the position that we finished in. And we still have him until next season. So I'm not expecting better. And that's that.
What things do you think Arteta got wrong then?
It's not so much what he got wrong, because people get things wrong. It's how long it took him to realize they were wrong and correct it. Like Arsenal playing without a creative midfielder as a 10. We have the players there because Saka's played there now. ESR's been there. But yet he tried Willock, who fans would tell you could never play 10. He's tried Lacazette as a 10. He's tried Willian as a 10. He tried everybody but the person who actually plays in the position.
As a number 10, yeah.
It's just stuff like that. The Europa League semi-final. It's a big game as far as Arsenal are concerned. And the first leg you're playing ESR as a false 9 and you've never played that formation. The second leg you're playing a formation that you've never played.
I mean, it's not even that. He had Gabriel in the bench, Martinelli. That's what was annoying as well, because he can play up front. Why not play him?
But it's just it's things like that.
So these are key things that literally just finish the season for us, really.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think Arsenal just really because the signings And the way there's so much positivity in the summer off the back of those two cups, it really felt like, wow, Arsenal are going to be a force, or show signs that they're going to be a force. Yeah.
Maybe it's the right kick in the backside that.
I was going to say, what I will say is, and I am not an Arteta fan, but what I will say is he can't do any worse than he did last year. So I'm hoping he already knows the mistakes he made and he doesn't repeat them. That's me hoping this. I don't know if he will, but yeah.
You know the other team around are just going to be much, much more stronger than what they... No, there's not that part in Chelsea.
No, but the funny thing is, I'm fine with the other teams around us getting better because they're always going to do that anyway. My issue is that this season, Arsenal played worse than you expect Arsenal to play. I'm not talking about the teams around us, because for us to get into the top 4 anyway, we'd have to have played better than you expect Arsenal to play. We were worse than what we should have been. Arsenal are not an 8th place team based off of the players that we have. So can we at least finish in the position that you expect Arsenal to finish and then go from there? That's what I'm expecting next season.
I mean, in terms of that, what would you say is a realistic target?
Arsenal are the worst team in the top 6, but they're better than Leicester. And no one will convince me otherwise. Arsenal are a better team than Leicester.
Squad-wise, definitely.
Yeah. We are. I personally think Arsenal are on par with Tottenham. It's just that Tottenham's Harry Kane makes everybody else seem way worse. But as a squad, I think we have better defenders than Tottenham. If we play them, I think our midfield is maybe slightly worse, but not enough.
Do you know what? Every time we talk about the defenders, man, when I see Mari and Holding at the back, man, and Chambers at right back.
Exactly.
That in itself
just to be picked.
Gives me nightmares.
And that's it.
You know what? I can't believe that.
Yeah. But I think even a lot of the signings, they've made hasn't paid off this year. Tobias definitely didn't pay off.
The signings were...
Jury's still out.
Yeah, on paper, the signings were good signings. But I feel like Arteta's not the person for those signings, because I think under a different manager, they might have been better. Like Gabriel started well, and all of a sudden, he seems to be worse than when he joined. Partey came from Atletico Madrid as known to be one of a top, like people thought he was going to be top 5 centre midfielders in the league. He's come, he doesn't seem like it. So it's just little things like that. So until Arteta sorts out his rubbish, I don't know what Arsenal are going to be doing. But move on. I hate talking about Arsenal.
He needs to cut this rubbish about so fixated about the fixed way of playing and like past.
I've stopped listening to him.
Freedom, really. In terms of signings or players, who do Arsenal need to get next year, Adil, and which positions do they need to improve?
Everybody they're linked with, Arsenal should get.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I think I think Arsenal definitely need another winger. I think they need I think they need a better 10 than, as much as Smith Rowe played well. I still feel he's a hard-working industrial type of number 10, but I still feel a club like Arsenal, for the ambitions that they need to have someone who has a bit more of an end product in terms of creating chances for their strikers. As much as hard work and good play,
in the matches he played, though, that's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it's the style. He's not the type of he's a number 10 who's gonna do a 1-2. He needs the striker to feed him back. Do the combination play. But sometimes you want a 10 who's gonna turn his man and feed the striker and create this for the striker, a bit more like the Ozil style. So I just think Arsenal need that variation of that individual quality, not a hard working style. You need that player who's got that individual creativity In my opinion, I think that's what Arsenal need.
Oh, my internet connections.
And definitely, they need a backup left back. They need to fix what they want to do at right back. They got so many right backs, and they're rotating between, 3, 4. So they need to make a decision. And I do think they need another defensive mid.
We're rotating between 2 right backs and a centre back. So
yeah. But I think it's trying to figure out which areas of the pitch to prioritize, because they kind of have players in all those positions that can do a job.
Mm.
But this is why I say Arsenal, if they just sign the players they're linked to, we're linked with Basuma, we sign him. He should be signed already. We're linked with Onana. He should just be signed. We're linked with, is it Buendia?
Buendia, yeah.
I'm not a fan.
But I think Buendia is a real player, proper player. I think Buendia is very good.
And they're not break the bank signings. They will take Arsenal up a level. We don't need to be challenging for the title next season. We just need to be back in our position.
What do you think of the rumours around Sterling? Do you think that's true? And do you think that'd be a good signing if it was?
I don't see it happening. And for the money and the value of it, I don't think it would be a good signing. But I mean, would I take Sterling? Of course, like I wouldn't turn my nose up at him. I know you don't like him, but I'd take him.
No Sterling for me, man.
I'll take Mahrez too.
We got Saka. I'll take Mahrez, but not Sterling.
Sterling plays left wing, not right wing.
He's dead, bruv. He's dead.
I don't know why you keep mentioning Saka.
Finish. It's all about Saka, bro.
Sterling won't play on the same side, so it's fine. Anyway, like I said, I'm done with Arsenal. Move on. Let's go.
Right. Quick one before we finish off. In terms of player of the season, who's your player of the season for Arsenal? Saka. Adil?
Yeah, Saka, I think that's the easy one.
I think, yeah. Very good. And in terms of their grade for the season, Adil?
I went with the E.
E. Famic?
I've said D.
D, yeah.
Because how bad we started.
Yeah, it was terrible. Well, especially that October to December part. It was just horrendous. It's going to be worse, but because we finished 8th, I ended up giving it a D.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, exactly.
I think the 8th position doesn't wash away the disappointment of the ups and downs of the season. But I suppose it's still more respectful than what it was for a long time. The reason
why it's
5 wins in a row.
Yeah, if he was 10th position, 8th seems a bit more better than being 10th.
But at the end of the day, we're comparing to what you're expecting from the club at the start of the season, and you would put 8 down as an E.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of the season.
You put 8, yeah, but no. I mean,
anyway,
Arsenal just whatever.
Let's move on to the new European champion Chelsea. I mean, Adil, what a season for them.
Yeah, excellent season, and they kind of showed that they had issues a bit, not straight away, but they had issues suddenly within the season. I mean, they started off quite well; it looked promising, and then midway, in the November time, December time, this totally fell off, and they had similar issues in terms of with Arsenal. Like you could tell, there was a lot of unhappy players. There was a lot of disunity within the camp. Had the manager starting to change formation, change personnel, and constantly wanting different signings. They were getting rumored with different players all the time, and yeah, it just looked like it was another team that was starting to fall away. And I just think the difference is the hierarchy at Chelsea are ruthless. They know what they're doing. They know when a ship is sinking, and the decisions, the tough decisions they made, worked out to save their season. And you have to rate the way the hierarchy operates. I mean, now looking at it, everyone's going to say, "Oh, what a great decision it was to get in Tuchel." But even at the time, I was saying, "What a manager! What a great!" I mean, there's people questioning whether he's actually a world-class manager, which I thought was a joke. Anyone who studies the game knows Tuchel is an elite manager, and he's proven it. I mean, and the other thing, the performances, as much as it's been boring for us to, watch those games and analyze those games because how well they dominate it, they still, they're still very dominant performances. It's not easy to do in the Premiership, dominant performance. So I still feel they've had an excellent season.
Seems like we lost family. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, in terms of like Lampard, a lot of fans, you could see a lot of like Chelsea fans, they were upset when he went, obviously, when he got sacked because he was a club legend, etc. But clearly there was a quote that came out that said, you know what, he's not giving us any tactical information or anything of that sort. So
yeah, I mean, the rumors was, he was just fixated on attacking.
Yeah.
They never used to do any work on off the ball or had to stop the opposition, had to win the ball back. It was, other than just high press, a lot of the focus was on pressing. I mean, not on pressing, on attacking play. So yeah, and it's clearly, I mean, you can't imagine another club, being as ruthless as they were. I mean, they had every excuse to extend and give Lampard a longer chance because of what he'd done the season before during a transfer embargo, the amount of young players they've brought through. But that's how they understand football. They know their football. The moment they realize that the club was going downhill and the manager didn't have the tools to fix it, they made their decision and they replaced with an absolutely world-class manager.
Yeah, I mean, Tuchel absolutely changed the fortune of that team. I mean, they ended up finishing fourth. I mean, they were in the FA Cup final. They lost to Leicester, and then they go in to win the Champions League. I mean, that in itself is massive, King of Europe. In terms of what they need to do next season, Adil, what would you say? Which areas would they need to improve? I mean, it's kind of...
We've been saying it every week we've watched Chelsea. We've said the same thing. It's scary to think what this team's going to do. Had a prolific striker. The thing is, is that striker available for them? I mean, now they're going for Lukaku, which is a surprise choice for me. But what he's done in Italy is phenomenal numbers. He's just won a league, so that's it's great time to buy a player who's had an influential season in a winning campaign because they've come in with the winning mentality. So in terms of profile, I think Lukaku would be a great signing. I think they need to maybe improve on their options in their attacking mid, because you still think they rely on Mount. If Mount ain't there, you still think, okay, it's not the same Chelsea in terms of creating something or having a cutting edge. So I still think they might need another.
Havertz will kick on next year,
but Havertz plays as like a striker more than So I think the amount of games they play, they rotate. He's a different type of player. I think he's like Famik said, called it early on. Havertz is a Lampard striker type of midfielder. He creates for himself, not necessarily creating for others. Yeah. As much as he is still a great player, a good player, I still feel they could do with a bit more competition for Mount on just another creative spark. But defensively, they look solid. Defensive mid, they look solid. In every position, they've got numbers in it. They've got players.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree, mate. I mean, there isn't much lacking from that team apart from a striker. I do think, I mean, maybe it was a bit unfortunate. He does make great runs, Warner. Maybe next season, I don't know whether he gets a goal early or two, and he might kick on and find his form again. So we don't know how that might be. In terms of the best player for their team, I think we can both agree it will be Mount.
Mount, yeah, but I think in terms of the running, you have to praise Kante. We've said it a few times now. It's ridiculous to think that he was trying to get him pushed out of the club when see his performances. They're all match-winning performances, big games.
The reason I say Mount is because I mean he was there throughout the whole season.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas Kante was pretty much from January when Tuchel took over, and that's why I went for. I would go for Mount is because he was performing for them throughout the whole season.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, I go with Mount, but I do think just
No.
as I mentioned.
Yeah, Kante.
I mean, Jorginho, even I had a couple of fishy games towards the end, but on the whole, I mean, especially one of the games against City, he was just, I thought he really stood out. It was amazing, but not the cup final. I think the first game against City. I mean, in the league,
it was a semi-final of the FA Cup.
Just unbelievable performance there. So. Yeah, and to say the truth, it's hard to find a player that you can say was terrible for them, like from their, main players. You can always question Hudson-Odoi and Abraham, but their players just don't make the next grade.
I think they will get moved on anyways. I think Tammy and Oliver Giroud, etc.
And that's the thing. That's the thing I like about Tuchel is he seems very clear in his plans for the future. What he needs to do, and other managers have just lingered on with certain players for too long. He seems to be quite clear, my way or the highway.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. In terms of their grade, Adil, what did you give them?
I gave them an A. Again, agree with you. If they had won the FA Cup too, it would be. But that is still a bit harsh because that's to get to the FA Cup final, to get to the Champions League, to get to the top four from the position they were in. But they do have an excellent squad, minus a striker. I mean, they do have strikers, but clearly they're all out of form in Warner, Abraham, and Giroud. So, but their squad, when you look at it, they should be challenging for honours every season. So,
four trophies, to be honest. That's why they got the squad for it. They're pretty much.
And I think I think her name is Maria Granovskaya, saying the sporting director. I mean, she has to get given credit because a lot of people questioned and was wondering, women taking over in such a senior position. But she's brought quality signings, quality players, and the other thing, she's brought them for excellent prices. They're not they've not overspent on hardly any of the players they've got. So she seems like she's very knows what she's doing, and they're in good hands at the moment.
I mean, Tuchel doing his bits. Let's move on to the next team, Adil. Let's talk about Aston Villa. I mean, for me, I thought they had a really good season. I mean, the only thing that kind of let them down from the position they were was the Jack Grealish injury. I mean, that he is their key player, and I think that's what caused them to kind of sleep down the table more and lose a lot of the games. That if I think Jack Grealish was there, it would have been a different result.
Yeah, clearly he's the talisman, and he makes everything happen in terms of the attacking sense. But defensively, I mean, the team's been impressive defensively all season. They kind of drop back, they go into a low block. They defend deep, the block shots. Then when you beat the blocking of the defense, then you got keeper Emi Martins, who I think was the best in terms of performance keeper in the season. And yeah, they've done really well considering the season before. They
bought really well, didn't they, as well? The players,
and that's the biggest thing is they clearly. They know what they want, what type of player they want. They're getting them in, and it's just a club that's got. I really like Christian Perslow. I think he's the chairman or chief exec. He's very good. He's always supports his managers. They've just got a good setup. Everything's going in the right direction. Bertrand Trier was another good addition. At the time when they signed him, I wasn't convinced. I was a bit unsure. Even with Ollie Watkins, I rated him at Brentford, but I always felt his finishing wasn't maybe up to scratch for Premier League standards. But he looks like he's developing, and he's a handful anyway. I mean, they've got a real strong team spirit, and you can see that in every game.
But you know what? Like, looking at their team, like if they need to improve, if they want to improve, they really need to obviously take some of the pressure off Jack Grealish, and I mean, find other ways also to win games, etc. So I think those are areas that they need to improve on by players.
And that's why I'm really encouraged with the rumors that they're going for Buendia. because Buendia is a very similar type of player to Grealish. The style in which he plays is very similar to Grealish. Obviously, I don't rate him as highly as Grealish, but in terms, if you look for like, if you're looking for potential replacement, if Grealish was to move on eventually, which is conceivable because I think Grealish is an ambitious player. I think that's a very smart move because you could play him, and we're maybe going ahead of ourselves in talking about areas they need to potentially improve. But yeah, I mean, you would say a winger is needed. El Ghazi and Trezeguet have rotated the other side. I think Bertrand Trier is really good, but you do see that as a place area they could improve.
Do you think they need a backup striker? Because what happens if Ollie Watkins gets injured? I mean, or some games.
I mean, yeah, I think they do.
Think that's another area they need to look into because.
And I think that is an area they're looking for. In rumors are that they're looking for a striker. I think obviously they're unlucky to lose their, previously record signing. Wesley was out for the whole season. Yeah. Just came back towards the end. But even when he was there last season, he didn't look quite ready for the Premier League. Even though he's big and he's got ability, now coming off an injury, I just think either loan him out or sell him, cut your losses and go for a better striker, another striker. But yeah,
they're linked
defensively solid.
They're linked to the Tammy Abraham, so
yeah, and obviously Tammy Abraham was influential in the season. They got up to the playoffs, I think, or they got up. I can't remember. He scored a whole load of goals for them. He knows the setup. That makes sense, and I think there's going to be a big market for Tammy Abraham.
With the teams that are coming up, etc. Because obviously, even if they go down, he's a great player in the Championship, so it makes sense. It makes sense in all sense, really. In terms of their grade, what would you give them, Adu?
I think I gave him a C+, was it? Not sure.
Plus, I gave them a B. I thought even though the only reason they obviously fumbled is because of Jack Grealish, but
the reason why I did because there's clubs in January they made smart moves, loan moves, not necessarily signings that really propelled their season. And obviously the best example is West Ham with Lingard. Willock at Newcastle. There's other teams, they just done smart business at the right time just to add a new impetus. And I feel Aston Villa is one of those clubs, they clearly do have the finances. So it was disappointing they didn't make that jump considering the position they were in.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, just they might regret missing that opportunity because they were overachieving at the time, and it was they were never going to keep it up unless they did something bold.
I agree. Let's look at the other team, the two teams that are in there. Let's look at Brighton first. Adu, what did you make of their season? It seems like a hit and miss.
I mean, Brighton is another team I was. Actually, I mean, when I watched them at the start of the season, I was excited to watch them even when they kept drawing. I was excited watching their games because they played good football. By the end of the season, I just got sick and tired of watching the same thing. It actually got really boring to watch because they do the same thing all the time. They're going to concede a late goal. They're going to play well for large part. It seemed like Groundhog Day every match with them. And that was frustrating is the team did not develop nearly enough as they should have during the season. But even when you look at the optimism in the summer, they kept Ben White, they got Adam Lallana in, they got Welbeck in. They look like a team that were going to, there's a lot of, noise going about the academy setup, about Dan Ashworth, and the whole thing just on paper just looked like a real exciting project. And it still is, don't get me wrong, but they're another team that flattered to deceive all season.
You know what the thing, they get into like the really good positions and the way they play, they open the team up and everything. And after that, basically everything else is just disappointing. But in terms of the way it's built up, I mean, that's something that they could work on and build for next year. I mean, it's still a
but the thing is, you when a team has the same problem the whole season way through, the whole way through, then you have to criticize why they haven't made that improvement. It's not like they're playing in Europe and they went deep in the cups that they didn't have the time on the training ground. I mean, they had slow starts all season. They always seem to only turn up once they concede a goal. Things like that. I mean, the whole season, it was the same problem, the same issues.
Do you think he's a bit negative in terms of Graham Potter? Do you think that that's what the problem is in terms of the way he obviously maybe just looks to keep the shop shut for a while and then obviously go for it towards the end, and that's why they concede so many towards the end?
And also, you know, the odd time get the comebacks. But yeah, I do think it's a game plan, you know, the problem there, where they do start slow. They do, I mean, they play good football, but they don't play with the cutting edge, and they don't play with the tempo that's going to actually create chances and score goals. They don't have the players or the pace to play slow tempo football. So when they do, it's quite manageable, as well as they're keeping possession. There's not really any threat to their play. And then they only take chances once they conceded, once the game's getting lost. And so there is a mentality issue and a game plan issue there. And that's why I criticize and feel like they've underwhelmed in the season. It's because for all the promise, they just always feel like, you always felt like they never gave everything from the first whistle.
For me, I thought they should have really gone out in January and get an out and out striker, someone who can just score goals.
I think the way they work is they brought their loan players like Percy Tau and them back in. I think the way Brighton work is similar to like it's very specific signings, very specific players they want to get. They work on them. They it's a bit like the way Liverpool operate. It's the players, they know who they want and they kind of just stick to that player and they'll wait and to get that right player in rather than if one don't work, go to plan B, go to plan C. They'll kind of wait.
Yeah.
And they're big beasts in the academy setup. I mean, they are challenging the big clubs for some of the best international talent, young talents. So clearly they're offering a lot of money to get those promising youngsters in, and they seem like they're going down the Borussia Dortmund model where they may be happy to spend that money on really seriously talented young players and rather do it that model rather than get established players in.
I mean, you could bite them in the end because I mean they finished 16th. I mean, if someone from those bottom club really pushed it, I mean, they could have been in trouble really. But yeah,
I mean, Newcastle and Brighton, you always felt like they got away with it this season because the teams below them were so poor.
Well, not just them, even Burnley, I would say, is the same.
But they never felt like there was a point where they actually thought they're going to go down. They always just about, but there was a moment where Newcastle and both Brighton actually dipped and completely stopped winning.
Yeah.
But no one has picked up enough points in that time to really put the pressure on.
I think that would have been really interesting to see if any of those teams actually started picking up some points in a row, how they react to it, because they were in a real slump. In terms of their grade, what would you give them, Adu?
I think I gave them a D.
Okay, and I gave them a C. Let's look at Burnley, the last team on the list. What did you make of them? I mean, it's pretty much what we expect from them. Get 40 points, stay safe, not spend much, and he just does the same again next year.
Well, I think that is simplistic way of looking at it, but I think the thing with Burnley is a bit like Roy Hodgson. I have to rate what Sean Dyche is doing because he's not getting any support from his board, and they went through a takeover. They got new owners now. Hopefully, they're owners that actually value his input and give him some tools because he's not had any signings. And that's for couple of seasons, and there's no one even coming in on loan. They kind of left him high and dry, and he's had to put up with this takeover business for over a season, hanging over them. So he's had owners who haven't been willing to spend anything extra because they've been looking to sell the club. And we know, that's a tough scenario because, there's players who want contracts that don't get it. Like I think there's Phil Bardsley and there's certain players that didn't get contracts renewed that Sean Dyche wanted. So I think he's done a really good job, much like Rohodgson, in the sense that he's managed to keep things ticking along when he had so many things going against him.
Do you think he doesn't get the credit maybe he deserves because of where they finish and the way they play?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had the privilege to be, in attendance to one of his speeches in a conference, and he's a very good manager. You can tell that he's a deep thinker. He there's more to Sean Dyche than he probably gets credit for because of how he's having to work within the parameters at Burnley. And the thing was, they started to shift the way they played slightly 2 years ago, and they brought a few more ball-playing players, and then obviously that drive has been stopped because of the fact that he just hasn't had any support.
Do you think you can push it to the next level if given the funds in terms of like changing the way of play and the approach, etc.?
I think he can. I don't think he's fixed with this. He's not a fixed long ball merchant. I think they play enough football to prove that they are working on other areas of the game too. It's just very difficult when you don't have the competition in the squad. You don't get, and I just think he's done an excellent job. You look at their players, other than Chris Wood and Charlie McNeil.
Dwight McNeil,
Dwight McNeil, sorry. A lot of those players aren't players anyone's going to be screaming for. Even if they got relegated, no one else would, no one else would really go for those players.
Maybe Tchaikovsky and Pope.
Yes, I suppose Tchaikovsky and Pope, yeah. But again, he's developed them all.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what they need to do next season, maybe invest a bit more in key areas to give him that help.
Yeah, just refresh the squad.
Yeah.
I think the right side of midfield, they've always rotated between Goodmanson, they played Brady, they played a few different players to plug that hole. So I do think right side of midfield is an area. When Ben Mee got injured, they really struggled. I don't think their backup defenders are good enough. There's a couple of academy guys, I've forgotten their names.
Yeah.
Just generally strengthening the reinforcements in the back line and right wing.
What would you give what's their rating, Adil?
Oh, C.
C, yeah.
Which I was tempted to give him a B or a B minus because I still feel it's a really hard job to create motivation in the squad when you don't have the support.
I'll tell you why I gave it a C, because I mean this is something we kind of expect. We know he's gonna get 40 points and finish. That's why I just thought, it's a C. But it's not his fault really. So, but
he's doing what we expect without the support.
Exactly.
Just imagine if he had support, he might do more than what we expect him.
Adil, thank you for coming on today. I think Famik had some technical issues. For those of you watching, thank you for watching, and please like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.